Alright, we are recording for chapter 14 of The Final Frontier novelization. I'll try to keep this one short. There's something I want to do soon enough that I can't let this just go on and on. Okay, so chapter 14 is really just on the forward observation deck. With Cook, Spock, and McCoy there, they've just thought they transmitted to Starfleet a distress signal. It's actually to the Klingons, but they don't know that. And Cybok comes in. And he tries to convince them, first with words, that, he's right and all that. We have a line here that I have to call it out because it's factually wrong. I'm going to read the whole thing, though, but it's only one part of it. What you fear is the unknown, Captain Kirk. The people of Earth once believed the world to be flat, but Columbus proved it was round. This is false, but moving on. They said that humans would never reach out into space, but they reached far further than anyone ever believed it possible. They said no vessel could ever travel faster than the speed of light, till warp speed was discovered. Yeah, no, Columbus was about, 3,000 years too late for figuring out the Earth was round? No, legitimately, the ancients knew the Earth was round. And there is not only documentary evidence of that, where they actually even calculated what the circumference of the Earth was, but I would argue there's also archaeological evidence of it. For example, ancient lighthouses. If the Earth were flat, you wouldn't need to build them up very tall, because with the greater height they can be seen further, or because of the curvature of the Earth. So, yeah, it's not that hard to prove that we've known a very long time. Those who didn't know at the time of Columbus were people that probably never traveled far enough in their lives for it to matter. So it didn't matter that if the Earth was round or not for them. But also, even if Columbus proved it was round. Also false, just on the face of it, because he did not circumnavigate the globe. That's how you would prove it was round. Oh, no. He wanted to. That's what the plan was, and he actually got it wrong. He did his math wrong. He got lucky that North America was where it was, as I recall. At least that's part of the story. That if North America didn't exist, the New World didn't exist, and he was in fact trying to get all the way over to the Indies, he would not have had the supplies to make it. He didn't provision enough for that. Yeah. So, no, but he wanted the Earth to be round. He did not prove it, but it is also, as I said, we already knew the Earth was round for thousands of years prior to him. It is also a little amusing, though, the whole thousands of years prior, they figured out what the circumference of the Earth was, which with actually surprising accuracy. But he still got it wrong. And for those wondering, I don't remember where it is in Greece, but there's a city in Greece that is on the same meridian, so that's the north-south line, because I can never remember latitude and longitude, which those are, so meridians and parallels, on the same meridian as Alexandria. And what somebody did is they noticed that on whichever solstice it would be, because Alexandria also happens to land on one of the tropics. Is that Tropic of Cancer that's the northern one? Anyway, falls on that. So at high noon, the sun would shine directly down into a well, such that there's no shadow cast. But the city in Greece that's basically due north of Alexandria, there is a shadow cast. And so you're able to use the angle of that shadow to figure out then, because they would also know what the distance was over there. You could form a triangle to figure out what the curvature of the Earth was, because the hypotenuse would be a different length, all that. Yeah, it's actually really neat, and the fact they did that so long ago was very impressive. But anyway. Yeah, and Cybok also has here, it is no more than an extension of personal fear for why Kirk doesn't want them to try to go through the Great Barrier, and it's like, he doesn't understand how this works. It's like, they said no vessel could travel faster than the speed of light until warp speed was discovered. I mean, it's true that people don't believe things can be done until they are done. In some cases, at least, they don't believe it. But that's not necessarily out of fear. It's from not understanding. That's very different. It's like they didn't think that we could pass the speed of sound. Until it happened, ironically, by accident. That was not the flight. Chuck Yeager was supposed to, well, I don't know if he was supposed to, the X-1 was supposed to break the sound barrier, but at a later flight, not the one that Yeager did. So that was an accident, but yeah, it did happen though. Was achieved. But yeah, there was a lot of predictions that it would be impossible, that the ship would fall apart, that the heat would be too great and destroy the ship that way, that it could ignite the atmosphere, which was one of the favorite doomsday predictions for a while. But no, I mean, true, that technically fear, but it was also the whole, no, they just didn't understand. That's all. And that's not necessarily fear. Okay. We get this a little later. This is Cybok talking. Once that's done, fear cannot stop you, for its purpose is merely to help you avoid pain. In a very abstract sense, yeah, I guess. Spock shifted his weight again. Jim caught his discomfort and asked, Spock, is he telling the truth? As he sees it, the Vulcan replied, with more than a hint of irony. He did not meet Cybok's eyes. It is an ancient Vulcan technique, forbidden in modern times. I'm not at liberty to reveal much more, except to say that it was misused by many to impose their will upon others. So, yeah, and this is after Bones and Kirk are both just accusing Cybok of brainwashing, and Spock's basically saying, yeah, it actually is. This was used to manipulate people, which is why it's banned now. But Cybok's thinking, it's just, I release you from your pain, and so fear cannot touch you. It's like, we're going to release the person from the one pain, not all pain necessarily. And it's still, that's not quite how things work. Okay. So then we do get, he reaches into Bones' mind in order to release him from his pain, which is that his father, who was 81 at the time and was still carrying on an active practice in Alabama, I think it said? Oh, no, sorry, Atlanta. Contracted this illness that was first discovered in the colony worlds, that apparently it attacks the nervous system, starting at the peripheral nerves and working their way in, and it causes intense pain, but will also lead to your death because it eventually gets to the nerves of your major organs, which means that they will start dying. And one issue I have a couple issues here. One is his father starts asking, release me, release me. There's no doubt in McCoy's mind about what his father was asking him to do. He recoiled in horror. And then later there's also a comment of, to preserve his dignity is why he did it. I have a problem with this because they make it sound as though McCoy killed his father, or that this was in any sense suicide, and it's not. Because it was also already stated at this point. I'm just trying to check where. Yeah, his heart, lungs, and kidneys had failed days before. So his father's only alive because of the life support systems there. Terminating life support doesn't really count as suicide. And in a situation like this, yeah, it's actually arguably ethical. It certainly is not unethical. And not amoral either. Because it's just, if not for these machines, he would be dead. And even the whole, not long after, they found a goddamn cure. If you hadn't killed him, killing him, he might have lived. It's like, no, I strongly doubt that, because the amount of damage that his major organs would have gone through, it's like, fine, yeah, you cure the disease. You still have to regenerate all of his organs. There's no way he's surviving that. I mean, or rather, I don't see any way to believe that Star Trek is capable of that. And if it were, then that's what should have been going on. It's like the fact that the nerves are dying, I would think would be kind of minor. It's like you would be able to keep the organs alive. You don't need the life support system. So it's like, no, he basically was dead already, and you were just keeping his brain alive. And that's that there isn't his state was not undignified. It didn't preserve his dignity by letting him die like this, and it wasn't. McCoy did not kill him. The disease killed him. That's what happened there. So I'm comfortable with how some of this is written, where it's like that's not really what it is. It is possible. I'd have to check, because there had been potentially around this time the debate of assisted suicide, medically assisted suicide. And it was very much a hot topic debate. And it's one of those debates that definitely ebbs and flows in cultural significance. And it's possible that this was just the author here, or Shatner, one of the names there, wanting that in there to provide a view of it, one way or another. That's possible, but it still is. I do not agree with the characterization, or rather the interpretation, that might be more appropriate, that McCoy killed his father, or that this at all constituted medically assisted suicide. No, this was... The man was dying. You just turned off the artificial means that was keeping him alive. That was sustaining some form of life there. And that is not intrinsically bad. That is not intrinsically unethical. There can be situations where it is. Not really this one. And plus, I mean, he is even saying, release me. So how did I put it in here? Yeah, it is a release and acceptance of the end of one's life. So yeah, it's... To put it another way, a way that Bones should understand being a doctor, but was his father, so... People die. Life does come to an end. His father was at the end. That doesn't make it better, that doesn't make it easier, no. But that is a reality that should not be ignored. That his life was at its end. The machine was prolonging that, but removing him from it doesn't alter things, ethically speaking. And also, as I said, even with the cure, the damage was potentially already done. So, I mean, you're talking about massive necrosis, potentially, of various organs. I don't want to go with that Star Trek is capable of correcting that. That seems way too powerful. And it's also that should mean that, like, even Spock's body, they didn't need Genesis. They should have been able to do that themselves. Anyway, so after that, we then get to this thing where McCoy has now been brainwashed. Get this, because Spock's been watching and all that. Not only had he been forced to witness something that should have remained private, this is Spock's point of view, but he had been dismayed at the degree to which Sybok had strengthened his natural telepathic powers. Violating a person's mind was a criminal act, but to do so and then provide eidetic images of that violation for others to witness was monstrous. By the way, I do... the violating a person's mind was a criminal act is interesting that in Star Trek VI, Spock does forcefully mind meld with Valeris at the end to reveal the conspirators. And it's like, yeah, that is very significant. It being a criminal act... I mean, true, he's not predicting. He isn't aware. I'm not sure I would necessarily want to go to criminal act, but certainly that it is a deep violation and is unethical. I mean, even what Spock did to Valeris was unethical, but it was necessary. It's just criminal. I mean, in theory, there might be laws against it, which would make it criminal. I'm just unsure. So yeah, and I guess even if it is criminal, it's just the whole they were trying to stop an additional assassination attempt, and so they were justifying mitigating circumstances, justifying his actions. So yeah. But at least this does also confirm that, yes, they did in fact see it. That Sybok was projecting what Bones' memory was into their minds. Then we do have this, which is interesting. Part of these my highlight. I hide no pain, Spock said coldly. Cybok smiled. I know you better than that, Spock. Do you? Spock challenged. He could struggle mentally against Cybok's invading mind, but the most likely outcome was that Spock's mental defenses would be permanently damaged, and Cybok would no doubt be the eventual victor. Better, Spock decided, to risk a temporary loss of face than endure such damage. Go ahead, he told Cybok. I shall not resist you. And this does make sense, and it's like it is a logical thing to do, that if I fight him, I'll likely lose, and it'll harm me permanently. Better just let it happen. Plus, there is also the argument that even if Spock isn't aware of what specifically it is that will be shown, it is Kirk and McCoy. I was like, it's really only being shown to Cybok that might actually bother him. I mean, Kirk and McCoy seeing it would also bother him, yes. But they are probably the two people closest to him that it is the least violation possible. It's like it's the least invasion of privacy for them to know it. Cybok is basically a stranger, though. They only knew each other for about a year. So yeah, it's Spock's birth, which Spock shouldn't have memories of it. That's not how brain development works. At least not for humans. But one thing kind of interesting. So it is ritualized, the Vulcan birth ritual, and it does go back thousands of years, just like the ritual around Pon farr it mentions, and the ritual around death, which is kind of interesting. But it's also Talar that was actually the midwife, and he points out how appropriate, Spock thought, that she who attended my second entry into this life also attended me at the first. That is appropriate. I agree. I kind of like that as well. So I'm just thinking, because I guess she wasn't a priest, the master of Kulinar? Because that would have potentially been to Ray, or to... Crap, who's the other one? To May? Cybok's mother or her replacement. Not Talar here. Yeah. Now we do get this. So human, Sarek said. Spock thought he detected a trace of disappointment in the father's tone. Sarek took the infant and gently handed it to his wife. Amanda cradled it next to her and traced her finger along its tiny pointed ears. She glanced up at her husband. Neither human nor Vulcan, but ours. It was also earlier that because of Talar, Spock realized he does not show his concern for my mother. So, yeah, I'm just pointing out here that even in this moment when it's like, oh, it's so horrible, I'm part human. But even seeing this, he's like, yeah, my dad would be like holding her hand or doing something instead of just standing there watching, if it weren't for Talar being there. Right? Talar? Yes, Talar. If it wasn't for this high priestess being there. So it's like even he's recognizing that, yeah, my dad really does love my mom. That's a good thing. And also she does, like, so human, but it's like, neither human nor Vulcan, but ours. It's like, yes, Amanda obviously is going to love Spock, but it's also, I am confident that she would impress that on Sarek, and that Sarek, even without that, likely agrees as well. So it is kind of, as I said previously, it is kind of a nonsense idea that this is Spock's pain, that this should have already been resolved for him some time ago, and Sarek, it was logical for him to marry Amanda, and meaning he actually does love her. If you watch Journey to Babel, that you can tell that Mark Leonard performed it very well, and Sarek does love Amanda. And it would also be logical for such a union to produce children, and also that he would love those children because he loves Amanda. So, I'm sorry, it does bother me, the suggestion that Sarek doesn't love Spock. He doesn't necessarily know how to express it very well. That's a fair criticism of the man. But he does love him. Spock should know that. Based on Sarek's comments in Search for Spock, he does know that. So, yeah, I get it, but it also well, here, let me read this. You are my brother, but you do not know me, Spock said. I am not the outcast boy you left behind. Since that time, I have found myself and my place in the universe. Here among my shipmates. My life is here aboard the Enterprise. Even without that, my point is, well, he found himself. Even without the rest of the thing, he found himself. This is not truly a pain for him. Not, I mean, it might be very deep, but it doesn't mean it's very great or very significant for him. So, yeah, but that's... And this is, because Cybok is like, all right, Kirk, you've refused. I've just been called to the bridge, so I'm going to go. Spock, McCoy, want to come with me? And McCoy does take a step and turn, and Spock hasn't moved at all. He's just standing next to Kirk. And that's when we get that line there. And this does also wake up McCoy. And he's like, yep, I'm staying with Kirk as well. And Cybok is like, well, I got places to go, so he starts to leave. But Kirk does yell at him about the whole, you can, crap, where is it? It's essentially a you can commit suicide if you want, but I'm not going to. Leave my ship out of it kind of thing. Okay. I know I read that line, I just don't remember where it is. But Cybok goes and is basically, because Kirk even calls him insane, it's like, maybe, but I'm going. See you on the other side. And yeah, I mean, it's a fair way for that to end. I do wonder, because at some point they come up to the bridge. And because it is also like, once they pass through the barrier, from what I remember from the movie, they see this, and Cybok is like, Captain, I return the Enterprise to you, because he also realizes Kirk has got to explore this. I mean, it's like, yeah, you're under arrest, but we can figure this out. Come on. It's like, he is a natural explorer. It's also part of the reason why, fear of the unknown. It's like, what are you talking about? Kirk's whole thing, the only thing we know Kirk for from the Star Trek franchise is being an explorer. He wants to find that unknown. He wants to explore that unknown. He wants to know the unknown, to discover the unknown. So it's, in a way, though, that is what Cybok's true failure is. And true weakness is. That he's essentially projecting, you could say. His understanding for what things are, like, that fear is to prevent pain. That's his interpretation of it, and so he just applies it onto everyone else. But that's not necessarily true. And Kirk defies him in that way by even, saying the whole fear and guilt, these are things we need. And he does also, by the way, name his pains. David, not knowing David, his missed chances with Carol, which I don't think is a great reason. I mean, it's like, with how she's been treating him, no, and he dodged a bullet, as I've said plenty of times previously. And also, she didn't want that either. I mean, it's like, no, Kirk, it's not a real pain there, I feel. I mean, not knowing David, absolutely, yes. But Carol, not so much. And losing the original Enterprise, it's like, okay, yeah, that one's fair as well. But it's also I mean, he can just say that. It's not like those around him don't know that, so it's not really much of a secret pain. But yeah, I mean, Cybok doesn't seem to understand this, and he is just pushing onto other people. So Kirk can defy him because he has a different understanding for things and is strong in that belief. And also Spock fails to stop him. Fails to be impacted by him because, as he said, he knows himself. He's found his place in the universe, so the pain is like, yeah, that's my pain. This is where I'm supposed to be, though. Why would I move? So it's... And I forgot to put in my notes. I will put in now. Again, Cybok does not say share your pain. So that does mean, thus far, every time he's done this, since he shared with John, he has not used that phrase. I do believe that is significant. Thus far. It depends on if he does use it against the source, whatever the hell he's calling it, that they find on Shakari. If he does use it there, when he has basically faced his own pain that he is wrong, or his own fear that he is wrong, that his vision is not true. If he does say it then, when confronting the thing, then I'm certain it was intentional. That because he was exposed, he feels vulnerable, he's not using it, because that thing that the phrase may have been what caused him to reveal it to John, but then at that point, because he has learned about himself, he is whole again and is now able to use it. So that, I'm not sure. We'll see. I don't quite remember the movie well enough to be clear. That's why I'm not sure. I don't remember if he does use a line in the movie. But we'll find out in however many chapters. There aren't many more left. But yeah. See you next time.